clicked on this video because you wanted to know what I had to say about lying. So let's get to it, and then I'll talk to you about why I decided to do this video this week. So first of all, do you tell people your true age, or do you lie about your true age? Do you work in an office where your boss tells you, oh, I don't want to talk to him. Tell him that I'm gone for the day, or tell him that I'm on vacation, or tell him that I'm not here. Or you do the same thing and tell your secretary to do it, or other people. Do you test your children by doing things like knowing that your son asks you to go to a party 3 weeks from now, but you know there's troublemakers at the party and you don't want him hanging out with those kids? So you say to him, no, I don't want you to go. So then all of a sudden, the day of the party, your kid comes to you and says, thinking that you had forgotten about it, he says, I have to go to the library and I'm to do a project and I'll be back at 9. What are you going to do, Mom? And you said, oh, I'm just going to be hanging out here at home. I just want to be cozy. But in your mind, you know what's going on. So instead of staying home, you actually go out to the party and catch him there. So is that a lie? So in today's video, we're going to talk about this because a lot of people seem to want to crucify you if you're a Christian and you say that you tell a lie. And I'm going to tell you what Jesus put in my spirit this week. So stay tuned. This video, the reason that I'm doing it is because last week when I ended my study of Matthew 22, I talked about, by the way, if you hear that, that's Muffin drinking water over here in the RV. So I did the video talking about how I use the word lie. But for me, I don't really think it's a lie. But this woman accused me of lying, and she was, I mean, I know she's a troll. Sorry, this is Muffin. I have to put the water here. You come to me and the first thing that you say is, I'm unsubscribed. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to manipulate the minds of people who are viewing the video. You're trying to put focus on a sin, because these are people who claim that they're perfect, but there's no Christian on this earth that's perfect. And you know why I know that? Because I have Jesus. Jesus is the reason that he's here. Jesus isn't for one day or two. He is consistent in our life, and we have to bring things to him. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that I've lied about. My dad had cancer when he was 90, and my dad died at 92. My dad had prostate cancer. When his mind was already going, we never told him that he had cancer. We told him that he was sick, but we never told him that he had cancer. He didn't get more than one cancer treatment because it made him so sick that we just decided at his age, we just better give him medications, and that's what he was taking. And he lived for 2 years, and he didn't die from cancer. He died because he hit his head. He was on a walker and he turned around and he fell and he hit his head on a cabinet. So that's how he died, but he didn't die from cancer. But had we told him that he was terminal cancer, he might have died sooner, because he might have received that information, convinced himself that he was going to die. So that is a lie. I'm sorry to tell you, that falls in the category of a lie. The other thing that I did in my life was when my uncle was in the hospital and the doctors came to me and said he is going to die because his heart is in such bad condition, he's going to die, but we can't have him in the hospital. He's got to go to hospice. Now, hospice is the place where you go to pass away. And they didn't give me a time frame for that. They didn't say whether it was 2 days or 2 weeks. So I had to make the decision as his executor for his will and all of that to go ahead and put him in hospice. Did I tell him that we were putting him in hospice to die at his age? He was already, I think he was 91 at the time. He was 91 at the time. So did I tell him that? No. Do I think that God is mad at me because I lied to my uncle about where he was going? All I said to him was, they can't keep you here in this hospital. You have to go to a place that's kind of like a recuperation place, like a rehab. He's been to rehabs in the past. So it's kind of like what I said to him. And he was coherent. So he understood that I didn't want to tell him. And I know that that is still a sin because it is a lie. What I said at the end of my video was, I said, I test people now. Like, I wasn't doing it in the past, but God put it in my heart that I have to test certain individuals that I travel with. Number one, I'm a public person, and that it makes it very easy for women and men to become stalkers in my life. And I've had situations like that. Nothing to the point that I've had to call the police on, but certainly concerned enough that I have had to hold on to emails and comments from certain people making threats and things like that. So I have saved those in case something were to happen to me. So my responsibility is to make sure that the women that I travel with who belong to the group that I have established, that these women are safe because they share location services when they travel. And my job is to make sure that they're secure, that there's no problems. If there is a problem, I have their information. I contact their family. I call 911. All of those things are my responsibility. So for me, I have to separate the wheat and the chaff, right? In other words, I have to separate any woman who is violent or aggressive with other women. And that is exactly what happened on this trip, and why I had to remove a woman, and all the women saw it. Like the last time that I had a situation like this occur, it was more like a gang stalking type of thing. And I'm going to expose all of this. I'm going to show you all the emails and the stuff. I'm not going to show you the names of the people, but I am going to show you all of the things that I've had to endure. But that was different. So I learned my lesson from that, and I was calm, and I said, you know what, let her sit there on the Facebook app and continue to write and say things and stuff. Eventually, she proved exactly what God was telling me to do. He said, leave it alone and let her prove herself. And all the women saw it. I mean, she was harassing me, she was threatening me, and even after I took her off, she was still threatening me afterwards in private on Messenger. So I had to block her. So, I mean, seriously, like, you are going to threaten me. Like, I'm here against the world and everybody for Jesus, and you think you're going to come here and you're going to threaten me? You have some serious issues if you do. So I just want you to know that what I said in my video was that sometimes when I see people in a group that, like, especially a woman that I don't know, like the other two women I've traveled with, but this particular woman, I knew she was kind of manipulative. So the day that we were camping, I embellished. We were talking about personal things. Most of the things that I say are true, but that one day in my spirit, it was like God was telling me, make this up. Now, when I make something up, to me it's considered a falsehood. That was the exact word that somebody used because I used the wrong language, and he said it's more like a falsehood. So in other words, it's not deceptive, manipulative. It's not that I'm making like a fake witness or fake evidence or anything like that. It's usually something that has to do with me. I'm the victim there. I don't talk about another person. I don't make up stories about another person. It's usually about me, and I might embellish it to make it a little bit spicier because I know that those little spices are what people like to gossip about. So if anything, they would be really talking about me. They wouldn't be talking about somebody else. And it's really not a lie, but it's kind of embellished in a way that might, if she had an ulterior motive against me, she would go around and start saying this stuff to other people. So that's what I do, and that's why I'm explaining it, because at the end I didn't explain it. So, and that's what I did. I did that to try to catch her and see if she goes ahead later on with other women and do things like that. But eventually, I mean, I ended up removing her anyway because she became very violent and so forth. So when I said that woman attacked me on the comments about being a Christian, and she was accusing me of being a liar like Satan. So, you know, I'm going to be honest with you right now. Most Christians, they lie at some point, okay? They lie about little things. You lie about, oh, I don't want to talk to him, you know, tell him I'm not here. Or you want to take a day off, or you want to go somewhere with your friend and you go call work and you say, hey, I'm sick. I'm really super sick and I can't come to work today. And then you go somewhere else. I mean, come on, those are things that we do. I mean, that's not a manipulative lie. It is deceptive in a way, but it's a lie. It's a lie is usually some type of deception, but it's not in a way to hurt somebody directly. That's what I'm trying to say. Because when I said that I said a lie to my dad about him being terminal with cancer, I wasn't meaning to hurt him. If anything, that was coming from my heart. It was coming from a good place. When I'm trying to catch this woman in to find out if she is the type of person who in my spirit, from my discernment, God is telling me I have to make sure that I find out, because I don't want to find out later on that she hurts another girl, right? So if she's violent, I have to know this stuff. So these are the kind of things that I believe that although they are still lies, falsehood is still a lie, but it's kind of like a less level lie, but it's still a lie, right? It's still a lie. So we still have to bring those to Jesus. And that's why we have Jesus in our heart. And I want to read you, because I sat down, this one friend of mine, he sent me Romans 3:4, and I'm going to read it to you. And then I'm going to tell you, after I read this, and I read it, I'm going to tell you what was put in my spirit. I believe God put it in my spirit so that I can understand it. So let me read it for you. It says, this is in Romans 3. We're going to read 3-4. It says, true, some of them were unfaithful, but just because they were unfaithful, does that mean God will be unfaithful? Of course not. Even if everyone else is a liar, God is true. As the scriptures say about him, you will be proved right in what you say, and you will win your case in court. So when I brought this up to God, I realized, okay, God is not saying here that I'm a sinner and that I'm evil, okay? Because let's talk about sin for a second. When you sin, let's say you're doing a sexual sin. If you think in your mind that God is sitting up in heaven and going like this and watching you do homosexual acts, lesbian acts, acts with animals or acts with children, and just sitting there going, that's not God. That's not the God of heaven. The God of heaven, when he sees you going that way, he turns his face from you. The veil closes you off from a holy God, because God is so holy, he can't sit there watching you. He's so holy and so loving, he would be literally crying his eyes. He probably is crying about the decision that you just made to do something that's abomination according to the word of God, right? So for me, when I read this, I realize he's not calling me a sinner. He's calling me unfaithful, but yet he still accepts me. And that's exactly what I want to say. When you lie, not to hurt somebody, not to manipulate, not to control, but with genuine care for somebody, like I said, that you might have to save a person and you have to lie in order to save a person. You might, some gunman might have a gun and you say, no, I don't have a gun on me, and you have a gun on you and you're just waiting for the opportunity to pull it out, right? Those are the kind of things that I'm talking about, where you are doing your best to save another, to care for another. That is called being unfaithful. Okay, and we all have that in our life. Because if you were at work and your boss got a phone call and he said to you, oh, tell him I'm gone for the week, I don't want to talk to him, that's a pain in the butt. Your job, if you are truly a truthful Christian, don't come here being a hypocrite with me. Your job is to either say to your boss, I'm not doing that because that's a lie. Okay, and let him take the call. Or your other job, to be truthful, is to go to the person on the line and say, look, my boss wants me to tell you that he's not here, but he's sitting in his office. And I just want you to know that I don't want to lie to you. I just want to tell you the truth. Now, if you did any one of those scenarios, you'd probably get into a lot of trouble at work, right? You could lose your job. And that's why you don't do it. Number one, you feel like you have to do it because of your boss. And number two, you don't want to hurt the person on the line. Now, when you do it, you could be called a sinner, because now you're an accomplice doing the work of the sinner, right? So in that instance, you would really be an unfaithful, because you are trying to moderate peace, and you're not doing it you're just following instructions, but you're moderating. You don't want to hurt the other person on the line, right? So I really believe that this is telling us that sometimes we could be unfaithful. And that is the whole reason why we have Jesus in our life. And Jesus is not about 1 day or 2 days. Jesus is about forever and ever and ever. Once you receive Jesus in your heart and repentance, you truly become a born again believer. You are going to remember those little things that in your heart, they were wrong. I shouldn't have done that, or God help me, I had to do this today. And you bring those to Jesus in the evening, at night, or during the day, or you go to the bathroom or take a break or whatever. And you can go back to your boss and you can have a conversation with them and say, look, I don't feel comfortable with you putting me in that position, so that he knows he's not going to do it with you. He's going to tell you, well, transfer it to Becky because Becky's willing to do it. Okay. So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about here. If you don't communicate with your boss about that in the future, you're going to continue to deal with these things. But even if you continue to deal with those things because you feel pressured, remember that Jesus is there for you. He's there for you. And that's what I'm talking about. He's always going to be there for you. And the reason that I say this is because in the time of Abraham in the Old Testament, we read about that. If you remember that Abraham, when he came to the king really liked his wife Sarai. So in that day, if he would have said that he was the husband of Sarai, that was before her name was Sarah, he could have been killed, because the only way that a woman could marry another man was if she was a widow. So the king would have sent his messengers to secretly kill Abraham so that he could marry Sarai. So he told the king that he was her brother. And technically it kind of was true, but it's still a lie. So it could have been a lie that was raised up to him in the spirit, because I believe, because if you're spirit filled, I believe that God will tell you to do things, but it's never going to be something that is going to be hurtful. It's going to be deceptive. It's never going to be becoming a false witness. Nothing like that. But something like that to get you through that moment. God might give you in the spirit something like that and say this right now. And if you're spirit filled and you know, that could save your life. It could save another person. And that's the intent, is to save a life, is to help another person, is to love on another person. Whenever you lie for something like that, to me, we say the word lie, but I call it more of a falsehood. It's something totally different. It's something that's spirit filled. It's totally different. And the problem a lot of churches don't teach that is because there are people out there, they're not spirit filled people. They don't have the moral law inside of them. They don't understand that, so it's hard to talk about these things. But the word of God is not a little word that you can put in a box like this woman did. She said the word lie and that's it. Oh my God. No, it's more than that, because it's always about, we've been talking about this, it's always about the actual intent. What is the intent? And our laws, when you go to court, it's always for them to figure out what was your intent. Was it premeditated? Was it an accident? Was it something that you couldn't help? So that's what the court cases are always about, to see what was the intent. And that's how God judges us as well. He wants to know, what was our intent? Was our intent from our heart something loving? Was it something good? What is something precious? For me to tell my dad that, I don't feel bad about it. I mean, at that time, I didn't even think of repenting. If I had to do that today again, now, because I know Jesus and I know my situation and I know that I want to be faithful. I don't want to be I don't want to be one of the unfaithful. I want to be faithful, but I want to bring it to him in repentance and say, look, I missed a mark maybe today, but my heart is not in a bad place, and have that conversation with God. Bring it up to him and say, help me through this, because I don't want to do this. So that's what I want to say, is that constant relationship with you and God is so important when you're bringing this up to Jesus and saying, Jesus, I did this and I'm sorry. And, now veil can be lifted and you become closer to God, because God is realizing that in your heart, you were conscious of what you were doing, and you weren't doing it as a deceptive liar to hurt somebody or anything like that, or deceive them. So that's what I really believe. I was doing the study and then I read one more, and that really interested me, and I really wanted to talk about it here. So this is Romans 1:25 to 27. So let's read that. It says, they traded the truth about God for a lie. So they worshipped and served the things God created instead of the Creator himself, who is worthy of eternal praise. So when you lie about something and you know that it's not part of God's moral law, and you're making up these idols for yourself. You're making up who God is, okay? Because that's not the moral law. When you're doing that, you're making up an idol, so you're not really following God. So let's read 26, and it says, that is why God abandoned. Remember, we talk about the veil. God is not going to look at you anymore. The minute that you turn to sin, God is turning away. The veil comes down. You are separated from God. Okay, you are on your own, basically. Okay, so this is why a lot of you get into a lot of problems. This is why you get diseases. This is why so many things happen to you, because God is turned away from you. He is not going to sit there and stare at you doing pot and smoking drugs and doing heroin and all of the stuff that's so evil and doing stuff. He's turning away from you. That's why Jesus is the bridge between God's holy place and us. That's where Jesus is. So let's continue here. So let me read that part again. And it says, that is why God abandoned them to their shameful desires. Even the women turned against the natural way to have sex and instead indulged in sex with each other. And the men, instead of having normal sexual relationships with women, burned with lust for each other. Men did shameful things with other men, and as a result of the sin, they suffered within themselves the penalty that they deserves. Since they thought it foolish to acknowledge God, he abandoned them to their foolish thinking and let them do the things that should never be done. Their lives became full of every kind of wickedness, sin, greed, hate, envy, murder, quarreling, deception, malicious behavior, and gossip. They are backstabbers and haters of God. Insolent, proud, and boastful, they invent new ways of sinning, and they disobey their parents. They refuse to understand, break their promises, are heartless, and have no mercy. They know God's justice requires that those who do these things serve to die, yet they do them anyway. Worse yet, they encourage others to do them. So that is exactly what I'm talking about when we're talking about liars and sinners. These are people who are lying to themselves about the moral laws of God. Everything starts in the spiritual realm. I did a video on that on my other channel if you want to watch. It was the armor of God. And it was a several part series, and it's still there if you want to go watch it. I've left it there. I'm not going to be bringing it over to this channel. So if you want to watch it, link below the playlist for that. So basically what he's telling me that all of those things are bad. And you can see that he's talking about sexual sins especially. I mean, the worst kind of thing that we could do are those sexual sins, right? So God is going to turn away. He's not going to sit there. He's not a perv, and he's not going to be sit there looking at you. He's turned away. You need to receive Jesus. And Jesus is somebody that we have to receive every single day. We give him gratitude all day long. When you eat, you give gratitude. When you wake up in the morning, you give gratitude. When you go to your job, even though it's a job you don't like, you still give gratitude because you're supplying your need. God is supplying your need. Although you don't like the place, but then maybe you should be praying about the place. Maybe you should be praying about the people there instead of going there always with an angry heart. Pray about those people. Pray that maybe the manager leaves, the one that's making your life impossible, or whatever it is. Or you need to get smart about the people that are there and what they're doing. So don't go blaming God for everything. But God definitely is a God who sees our hearts. He sees what the intent is, because everything starts in the spiritual. And he knows that whatever you're going to do before you do it, it starts in your mind and it goes to your heart. And he has a direct connection to your heart, you know. And it's almost like I picture it like, okay, I know I'm doing wrong. So I'm going to lie. I'm going to tell my dad that he's sick, but I'm not going to tell him he has cancer. So God might put the veil in front of me, but I know he's not turning away. I know that he's still hopeful that I'm not going to get worse. And I do believe that evening when I go back to my house and I say, you know, God, help me. I had to make a lie. I'm sorry I did this. I want to protect my dad. I want to have special time with him at the end. And I don't want him to suffer needlessly. And I really believe that when I go to Jesus and I tell Jesus that and say, please forgive me for what I've done, but I think I've done it well, I really believe that the veil comes back up again. And God hasn't completely turned away from me because he's hopeful that I'm going to do the right thing, because I'm not considered a sinner. See, this stuff that we read in Romans 1, that's all sin. What I've done is I've been unfaithful. And that's okay, because God knows where my heart is. As long as I come back in faith to him, he will forgive me for my lies. And we live in a world that, I'm sorry to tell you, people lie all the time. We lie all the time. Is it right to do? No. But when you're doing it, then I think that those are the kind of things that you have to bring up to God. So that's going to be the end of this video. I hope it helps you. If you have any comments, please leave it down below. And that's my take on it. I really do believe that God looks at our heart and he loves us. He's a good, loving God. But we also have to remember that there's a lot of things that are out there that come out of wickedness. And we have to remember, because remember, the 10 Commandments doesn't give us more than just the word lie. Or it tells us not to kill. But remember, you kill mice, you kill, roaches, you kill stuff. So I really believe that although those laws were put there by God, it's a way for us to be directed. But also we have to have moral integrity to be able to know, okay, I can kill this vermin that's in my house because it's going to get into my food, it's going to bite my kids, it's going to do this. I'm okay to kill that and bring it up to God. Maybe we need to go to God and say, look, I killed this animal today. I'm sorry, but I had to do it, So those are the kind of things that I want to talk to you, but certainly those are not the major sins that we have to worry about. So let's take it lightly and let's stop being hypocrites, because there's not one of you out there that doesn't tell a lie or a white lie. And it doesn't matter if it's a white lie or a bad lie. A lie is a lie. We just have to make sure that we don't keep God veil down away from reaching him. So that's why we have Jesus. So before I go, I just want to say that this week is going to be exciting, because this is going to be Matthew 23. And if you look at my Bible, all of that is red. So that's exciting, because this is all speech from Jesus this week. And I always love it when the words are in red, because I know that he's doing a teaching, and this is all the teaching of Jesus. So stay tuned this week for chapter 23. I thank you so much for watching. I hope all of you have a lovely and wonderful holiday Thanksgiving. Give God praise and glory that we're here and we're not in the situation that a lot of countries are in, like Austria and Australia, who are really dealing with a lot of terrible things. So I thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day. God bless all of you. Bye-bye. Hey, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.